you, Mr. Chairman, and let me thank the gentlelady for yielding, but also just let me thank you for making sure that we stayed on point as it relates to HIV and AIDS. And I have to just stop and take a minute to help recall some of this history. Actually, when I was first elected in 1998, you were chairing the Congressional Black Caucus at that point. And you recognized what this HIV and AIDS epidemic was doing in our country, especially in the African American community. And I remember you called a meeting. I think you gave us maybe 2 or 3 days, you know, but the seriousness of this warranted that. People came from all over the country, and we talked about what we needed to do, and we sounded the alarm. Under your leadership, we developed the Minority AIDS Initiative, and I must say you insisted then that it be comprehensive and it must be completed and must be funded. I believe at that point we were able to get maybe $157 million. Drop in the bucket maybe, but yes, it was a major step in the right direction. We're still trying to get up to $650 million for the Minority AIDS Initiative. But having said that, let me just say, in terms of the comprehensive nature of what we talked about then and what you insisted on, we said that this had to any AIDS strategy had to be seen from the perspective of prevention, care, and treatment. And in fact, we talked about the disproportionate numbers of African Americans being infected and affected, and how the resources should be targeted to the communities in most need. Fast forward to Toronto, Canada, to the HIV/AIDS International Conference. And I'll never forget this, and I have to say this because today is really a milestone, I think, in Congresswoman Waters' work around this. We were there with the NAACP, we were there with all of our black AIDS organizations, and you whispered to me, you said, I'm getting ready to do something that's very controversial. You know, some folks may not like it, but are you with me? I said, yes, ma'am. You said, we're going to do a mandatory testing bill. And we talked about it, and you made it public at that conference, and you said, you're not going to rest until this is done. And you talked about you talked about the bill in concept in terms of stop AIDS in prisons, because you were talking about the rates of infection with regard to African American women and what's taking place in prisons, and how, you know, all of our heads really are in the sand about this. We just didn't want to deal with it at all, but you were determined that all of us, the NAACP, all of our groups were going to deal with it. And some said that it was going to be impossible to do because of mandatory testing requirements. And we talked about how to deal with that, and you found a way. And that's by allowing anyone who wants to opt out to opt out. And so I always have to say, Congresswoman Waters, that you always insist on, you know, doing this work. If we have to do it out of the box, we will. But where there's a will, there's a way. And I think today really just demonstrate that where there's a will, there's a way. And with the bipartisan support now on H.R. 1429, with our President supporting the development of a national AIDS strategy and a national AIDS plan, I have a lot of hope.
I yield to the gentlelady another minute, as much time as she may need to continue this wonderful talk she's doing.
I just say, I'm really excited today because I have a lot of hope. And when you look at what the rates are here,
for such time as she may consume.
Yes, absolutely.
2 minutes. When you look at the numbers in the District of Columbia, for instance, what, 33% new infections African American women? When you look at what's happening around the country, and when you look at the disproportionate rates of African American men in prison, you can't help but be thankful today that this bill is on the floor, and that with bipartisan support we're going to move it off of the floor. Because I think that if we really are being for real about tackling this, we've got to do it, and we've got to require what this bill requires in our prisons. And so I just have to say today, on behalf of my constituents, where we declared a state of emergency in 1999 in the African American community in Alameda County, you know, on behalf of the entire country, thank you very much. It's a very hopeful day, and I urge support of this bill and look forward to our continuing work and getting it to President Obama's desk so that he can sign this into law. Thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from California.